In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold.
There are 7 keys to the great gate, being 8 in 1 and 1 in 8. First, let the body of thee be still, bound by the cerements of will. Corpse rigid, thus thou mayest abort the fidget babies and tease the thought. Next, let the breath rhythm be low, easy, regular, and slow. Now that thy being be in tune with the great sea's Pacific swoon. Third, let thy life be pure and calm, swayed softly as a wilderness palm. Fourth, let the will to live be bound to the one to love of the profound. And fifth, let the thought divinely free from the sense observe its entity. Watch every thought that springs, enhance hour after hour thy vigilance. Intense and keen turned inward, miss no atom of analysis. Sixth, on one thought securely pinned, still every whisper of the wind. So like the flame straight and unstirred, burn up thy being in one word. Next, still the ecstasy prolong, thy meditation steep and strong. Slaying even God should be he distract thy attention from the chosen act. Lest all these things in one o'erpowered time that the midnight blossom flowered. The oneness is, yet even in this, my son, thou shalt do amiss. If thou restrain the expression, shoot thy glance to rapture's darkling root. Discard name, form, sight, and stress, even of this high consciousness. Pierce to the heart, I leave thee here. Thou art the master I revere. Thy radiance that rolls afar, O brother of the silver star. Well, that was Crowley, issued by the Order of the Great White Brotherhood.
The Abracast, occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
It's that time again. The party is over, the fire is low. All the ordinary people crashed on the couches and in their fucking cars and shit. Or even stupider, tried to drive home. So we are the only ones left. That's right, recording straight down the pillar of severity from the ritual space deep underneath the Stigmata Studios building located in the heart of the Steel City. I'm John Towers, and this is the Abracast. So we're continuing through Liber 4. We are moving from the first section of mysticism to section 2 called Magic, Elementary Theory. in this kind of poem that he wrote here, obviously he's talking about his meditation, which took up a large portion of the mysticism chapter, or the mysticism part as well. Summon your vessel of the art, mix in the secret formula, the formula for your weapon of mass distraction, your jinn jihad, or whatever you're drinking, and raise your vessel of the art to the sky. And join me in welcoming Chad to our supporters. Well, he moved over and he promoted himself. So here's to you, Chad. Thank you. And here's to all the Patreon and Subscribe Star supporters. Thank you all out there. So a little bit of programming notes here. I know a few episodes ago, I was like, hey, nothing's going to change. We're still going to be doing 3 episodes a week. I lied. All that shit's a lie. We are going to be changing. I'm having, life is interfering to the podcast. So the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I want to let you guys know it's not a pod fade. This 3 episode a week deal, is not the structure of the show. As a matter of fact, if you go to the website, the banner is still on there that says it's a weekly show hosted by me. So the Wednesday shows came about by this Thus Spake Zarathustra business, which then changed into the Western philosophy business. So I'm not going to be doing away with them. I'm going to move the Western philosophy category into just one of our regular show categories. So it'll just get added into the rotation. So we'll still do philosophy episodes, because I'm actually learning a lot doing them. However, I can't do 3 shows a week. I just can't do it anymore. And then also the Wednesday shows and the Friday shows in specific started when I was replaying or recycling the American Sermon, and then I recycled the Sermon of the Wolf on Fridays. And so recently, pretty much beginning of this year, I flipped the Friday shows into doing interview shows. I'm sure you've noticed. So we're going to keep those. We're going to keep the interview shows, and we're going to keep our regular Sunday shows. But I can't do 3 episodes. I mean, I'm taking a look at the economy of my time, and I need help is what I need. So there's that. Remember to check out the website, Advertise.com. There's some resources being added to. I want you guys to check those out. I don't want to necessarily pull them out. T-shirts. So the Wizard T-shirt is out there. The Magician T-shirt is out there. And I recently added the sigil, the classic cover art for the show is now available on T-shirts, stickers, I think a coffee mug, hoodies, a onesie. Like, it's available on a bunch of stuff. So if you have been out there being like, yo, where's the show logo? All this tarot card stuff is cool, but I want the logo. So there it is. Shazam. You go to the store section of the website, you go to T-shirts and stuff, click there. And while you're in the store section, also click on graphic novels and comic books. Grab yourself some reading material. Summer's coming. We're all going to be quarantined, waiting out this media-induced hysteria of the coronavirus anyways. I stopped at the store on my way home, and I felt like I was at the beginning of a fucking zombie movie. I just came here to get stuff for my fucking salad I'm going to have after recording tonight. And I was just like, oh, well, maybe I should pick up some of that shitty canned chili stuff and some ramen noodles too. Nothing about the coronavirus makes you shit any more than normal. So I don't know what everyone's doing with this toilet paper. Fucking Amazon sold out of toilet paper today. Like, people are fucking nuts. Let me tell you a little bit of something about the coronavirus. It's killed 40 Americans. 4D. That's it. That's it. And they were all older. So I'm not saying their lives are any less whatevers, but listen, let me put something in perspective. 10 years ago, 2010, President Obama was dealing with the swine flu. Do you know how many people died, how many Americans died of the swine flu? Do you even remember the swine flu? You know how many Americans died of the swine flu? 18,000 Americans died from the swine flu. Do you know how many Americans had to die from the swine flu before it was front page news on CNN? 1,000. 1,000 Americans had to die before CNN took the swine flu seriously. 40 fucking people died. And that swine flu business was over a span of 10 months. 10 months, that's it. So I'm not going to be like, don't be afraid of the swine flu. You know, oh my God, it lasts on surfaces for 10 weeks or whatever it is. That's not what I'm saying. You might have it right now. You're walking around. You might not even know, unless you're an infant or over 65, you're going to survive. Everything's going to be okay. Anyhow, I didn't even plan on doing all that. So, okay. Okay, Liber 4, Part 2, Magick. The training for meditation, preliminary remarks. Magick. The training for meditation, preliminary remarks. We shall consider a simple form of magic harmonized from many systems, old and new, describing the various weapons of the magician and the furniture of his temple. We shall explain to what each really corresponds and discuss the construction and the use of everything. So for all of you guys that perked your ears up when I was talking to Woody Watts from Hill City Paranormal about using Solomonic magic, Solomonic ritual magic, the Goetia on ghost investigations to call forth and command the spirit that's dwelling in the house. Here you go. Here you go. We're going to talk about all the shit you're going to need to create your little magic kit to do this stuff, all right? Now, it's a little bit different because Crowley's coming from OTO at this point in time. Originally, he and Mathers translated Solomon, so it's not going to line up tit for tat. But, I mean, you can go back to the book, that Lesser Key of Solomon, and it explains how you do everything, too. But this is like a little bit of an update. The magician works in his temple, the universe, which is where Cyrus, the dead guy, and I are right now, which is, be it remembered, counterminious with himself. In his temple, a circle is drawn upon the floor for the limitations of his working. This circle is protected by divine names. The influences on which he relies is to keep out hostile thoughts. See, this is interesting. This is one of the reasons we're having this magic as psychology. When Crowley translated the Lesser Key of Solomon, in the foreword that he wrote, he says the demons of the Goetia are nothing but aspects of the mind. So when we talk about magic as psychology or the occult as psychology, here is another thing that I have missed until right now. Crowley saying the magic circle that protects you, it's not protecting you from spirits or these demons. This magic circle is protecting you from bad thoughts, hostile thoughts. I thought that was interesting. Within the circle stands an altar, the solid basis on which he works, the foundation of all. Upon this altar are symbols that we know from our deep dive into tarot cards. A wand, a cup, a sword, and a pentacle to represent his will, his understanding, his reason, and the lower parts of his being. So let's see how this corresponds. The will would be the wand, check. The understanding would be the cup, check. The reason would be the sword. And the pentacle would be the lower parts. The lower parts. Okay. On the altar, too, is a phial of oil, surrounded by a scourge, a dagger, and a chain. While above the altar hangs a lamp. The magician wears a crown, a single robe, and a lamen, and he bears a book of conjurations and a bell. The oil consecrates everything that is touched with it. It is his aspiration. All acts performed in accordance with that are holy. So every device or weapon of the magician, as he says, everything that is used in the ritual has to be kind of consecrated by this oil. The scourge tortures him. The dagger wounds him, and the chain binds him. It is by virtue of these that his aspirations remain pure and is able to consecrate all other things. He wears a crown to affirm his lordship and his divinity, a robe to symbolize silence, and a lamen to declare his work. The book of spells or conjurations is his magical record. His karma is in the east, is the magic fire, in which all burns up the last. And we now consider each of these matters in detail. I don't know specifically about Liber 4, but in the Solomon stuff, the Goetia, the suffumulations, as he calls it, is it's a big deal. This is the incense and the stuff that you burn either to attract these spirits or to repel them. Suffumulations, something like that. Yeah, John, have another one. The temple represents the external universe. The magician must take it as he finds it, so that it is of no particular shape. Yet when we find in Liber 7, we made us a temple of stone in the shape of the universe, even as thou didst wear openly and I concealed. This shape is the Vesica Pisces. You guys probably know what that is. It's like the Jesus fish kind of thing. It's like a vagina looking shape. It's an oval. Okay. But it is only the greatest of magicians who can thus fashion the temple. There may, however, be some choice of rooms. This refers to the power of the magician to reincarnate in a suitable body. So I feel like I waffled there, but here I'll do a summary. You have to take your temple as you find it. Only a master magician, only like a super wizard, the sorcerer supreme, can build his whole temple. And when he builds it in the shape of a pussy. Chapter 2, the circle. Hey, I hope you guys notice the explicit content box on the fucking app that you're listening to this show on. The circle announces the nature of the great work. His circle should not be too small and cramp his movements. It should not be so large that he has long distances to traverse. Once the circle is made and consecrated, the magician must not leave it, or even lean outside it. You got to keep your arms and legs inside the magic circle at all times. lest he be destroyed by the hostile forces that are without. He chooses a circle rather than any other lineal figure for many reasons. Let's discuss them. He affirms thereby his identity with the infinite, the Ouroboros. He affirms the equal balance of his working, since all points on the circumference are equidistant from the center. He affirms the limitations implied by the devotion of the great work. He no longer wanders about aimlessly in the world. The center of his circle is the center of the Tau of 10 squares, which he is in the midst. The Tau and the circle together make one form of the rosy cross, the uniting of the subject and the object, which is the great work. And he is symbolized sometimes as this cross and circle. Sometimes the lingam yoni, sometimes the ankh or crux ansata, sometimes by the spire and the nave of the church or the temple, and sometimes as a marriage feast, a mystic marriage, spiritual marriage, chemical nuptials, and in 100 other ways. Wherever the form chosen, it is the symbol of the great work. So, yeah, I would add, not that I should add anything to this, but that it's a union of a horizontal and a vertical. So, the material and the ascendant, it's kind of like an axis mundi in that way, spiritual, mystical, chemical. So I would add that the circle with this Tau drawn to perform magic, bring a symbol of the great work, would become an axis mundi. And the navel of the world and axis of the world, the place where these marriages are taking place, the marriage of the sacred and the mundane are also meeting. It's a graphic representation of this concept. The place of the working, therefore, declares the nature of the object of the work, and those persons who have supposed that the use of these symbols implied worship of the generative organs merely attributed to the sages of every time and line minds in the calibre equal to their own. So the straight lines, I guess, would represent the masculine energy, and the circle would represent the feminine energy. In the Lesser Key of Solomon episodes, if you go back and listen to them, I think there's 3 of them, it lays out a much more structured and codified magic circle. It's got the names of God going around it, and it's got the it has these like cross areas in them. So yeah, that's just what I'm saying. Just be aware. That's all. That's all I'm saying. The Tau is composed of 10 squares for the 10 Sephiroths. We know these Sephiroths from our Kabbalah episodes, right? About the Tau is ascribed a triangle, which is inscribed in the great circle, but out of the triangle, nothing is actually marked. With the 3 corners, the area is defined by cutting of the lines of the bounding this triangle. This triangle is only visible in the parts which are common to 2 of the sides, and they have therefore the shape of a diamond and form of the yoni. So we talked about this yoni business in this Kama Sutra episode. I think we talked about the yoni. The size of the whole figure is determined by the size of 1 square of this Tau, and the size of this square is the base of the altar, which is placed upon Malkuth. Will follow then that despite of the apparent freedom of the magician to do anything he likes is really determined absolutely For as the altar must have base proportionate to the height, and as that height must be convenient for the magician. Oh, it's proportional. The size of the hole will depend upon his own stature. It's easy to draw a moral lesson from these considerations. We will merely indicate this one, that the scope of any man's work depends on his own original genius. Even the size of the weapons must be determined by necessary proportion. The exceptions to this rule are the lamp which hangs from the roof, above the center of the circle, above the square of the Tiferoth in the oil, whose phial is so small that it'll suit any altar. Okay, so I know I'm failing you. I understand that I'm failing you trying to explain this. So I'm going to depart from the text, and I'm going to walk you through the theater of the mind's eye. So imagine a circle. Now imagine a thick green sort of line like around the circle. And in this line, in the circle is like the names of these gods. So Crowley would have had it, Rahu Kuit, which we know, Chaos, of course, Babylon, Layla, and Perd Verbo knew it. So at like 12 o'clock, and like at 4:30, and then at like 8:30 or 7:45-ish, there are these three diamonds. So what he's saying is the triangle isn't drawn out. These three diamonds are there indicating where the lines are there. So the first one is at 12 o'clock. That's the apex of the triangle. Then it goes to 4, and then 4 goes across to 8, and then 8 goes back up to 12. So the gods we talked about would have been like from like 12 to 1, Hadut, then from like 2 to the beginning of 2 to 4, Rahu Kuit, then Chaos, and then at 6 o'clock, Babylon, Layla at 8 to 9, Perd Vibero next, and then Nivit would be like 11:30. So I think I'm doing a pretty good job of explaining this, I hope. Okay, so in the middle of the circle think about it as like an upside down T. This is the Tau that he's talking about. So think about the crossbar of the capital T is basically going from... It's basically in the middle of the three diamond shapes. And the T is sectioned off into perfect squares. So in the crossbar would be 5 squares. And then remember, it's upside down. So the crossbar going from like 8 to 4 would be 5 squares. And then from the 5th square in the middle shoots straight up to the 12 o'clock position, an additional 5 blocks. And these are the Taus, these are the Sephiroths that he's talking about. Now, 3 of the blocks on the Tau have specific symbols on them. So, the Alpha and the Omega is at the block that's at the 12 o'clock mostest position, and then there 3 down from that, there's like a Star of David, and then there's one blank one, and then the middle of the crossbar of the Tau, the block that's in the middle of the crossbar of the Tau, so either way you go would be block number 3. There's an X. So there, I think that's a pretty adept kind of explanation for the graphic of this thing. Maybe if you visit the blog, I'll maybe I'll make a drawing or something to throw on the blog to, just go to abercast.com, click on it, click on the resources, find the blog, and I'll do a little drawing. I'll do a drawing of this and put it up there. Now, if that was rambling and babbling, I'm going to get back to the book and let him do his official explanation of it. On the circle are inscribed the names of God. The circle is of green, and the names are of flaming vermilion, or the same color as the Tau. Without the circle, there are 9 pentagrams equidistant. In the center of each of which burns a small lamp, and these are the fortresses upon the frontiers of the abyss. See the 11th ether in Liber 418. They keep off those forces of darkness which might otherwise break in. The names of God form a further protection. The magician may consider what names he will use, but the names should in some way symbolize his work and its method and accomplishment. It is impossible here to enter into the subject fully. Discoverer or construction of suitable names might occupy the most learned Kabbalist for many years. Also, these 9 lamps were originally candles made of human fat for the fat of one's enemy. Slain by the magician. They thus served as warnings to any hostile force of what might be expected if it caused trouble. Today, such candles are difficult to procure, and it is perhaps simpler to use beeswax. The honey has been taken by the magician. Nothing is left of the toil of all those host bees, but a mere shell, the fuel of light. This beeswax is also used in the construction of the pentacle, and this forms a link between those two symbols. Pentacle is the food of the magus, and some of it he gives up in order to give light to that which is without. For these lights are only apparently hostile to intrusion. They serve to illuminate the circle and the names of God, and so to bring forth the outmost symbol of initiation within the view of the profane. These candles stand upon pentagrams, which symbolize Gabora, severity, and gives protection, but also represents the microcosm, the 4 elements crowned by the spirit and the will of man, perfected in its aspirations to the higher. They are the place outside the circle to attract the hostile forces, to give them their first inkling of the great work which they too must someday perform. We see Gabora in the Kabbalah, but we also see the Gabora in Eliphas Levi's Baphomet drawing that he did. I'm pretty sure the Baphomet episode has been archived, but if you're interested in it, you can go to the degree of the Red Vault and go find it.
Learn more at abercast.com. Get bonus content by signing up for the mailing list. Get all that plus many exclusive episodes by supporting the show at patreon.com or subscribestar.com.
Chapter 3, The Altar. The altar represents the solid basis of work. This is a symbol of the fixed will of the magician and the law under which he works. Within this altar, everything is kept, since everything is subject to the law, except the lamp. According to some authorities, the altar should be made out of oak to represent the stubbornness and the rigidity of the law. And others would make it of Achaia, for Achaia is the symbol of a resurrection. The altar is a double cube, which is a rough way of symbolizing the great work. For the doubling of the cube, like the squaring of the circle, is one of the great problems of antiquity. The surface of this altar is composed of 10 squares. The top is Kether, and the bottom is Malkuth. Again, we see this as a representation of the tree of life of the Kabbalists. Back to it. The height of the altar is equal to the height above the ground of the navel of this magician. The altar is connected with the Ark of the Covenant, Noah's Ark, the navel. Navis is a ship of the church, and many other symbols of antiquity. For this altar must embody the magician's knowledge of the laws of nature, which are the laws through which he works. The top of the altar shall be covered with a gold, and on this gold should be engraved some such figure as Holy Oblation, or the New Jerusalem, or, if he have the skill, the microcosm of the Vitruvius. On the sides of the altar are also sometimes drawn the great tablets of the elements and the sigils of their holy elemental kings. For these are a synthesis of the forces of nature, yet they are rather special than general symbols. So that might seem pretty self-explanatory, but I'm actually going to include a drawing of that on the blog too. I'm going to do that all tomorrow. See, this is why I don't fucking have time to do 3 shows. Who's got time to do 3 shows a night anymore? Or 3 shows a week? Who am I? Chapter 4. The Scourge, the Dagger, and the Chain. The Scourge, the Dagger, and the Chain represents the 3 alchemical principles: sulfur, mercury, and salt. These are not the substance which we now call these names. They represent principles whose operations chemists have found it more convenient to explain in other ways. But sulfur represents the energy of things, mercury their fluidity, salt their fixity. We should consider them as part of the sacrament. This particular aspect of the Scourge, the Dagger, and the Chain suggests the sacrament of penance. He mentioned this in his preliminary remarks. Remember, he said it's about keeping it pure. The Scourge is sulfur. Its application excites our sluggish natures, and it may further be used as an instrument of correction to castigate rebellious volitions. It is applied to the Nepesh, the animal soul, the natural desires. The dagger is mercury. It is used to calm to great heat by letting of blood. It is the weapon which is plunged into the side or the heart of the magician to fill the holy cup. Those faculties which come between the appetites and the reason are thus dealt with. The chain is salt, and it serves to bind the wandering thoughts. And for this reason, it is placed about the neck of the magician, where Doth is situated. Now, we haven't talked about it in a while, so I feel like I should just remind. Doth is like the hidden Sephiroth. Oh boy. So between I'm done with the between the first supernal triangle and the second, there's this empty space. David Bowie sings about it. And that's the Doth. That's the Tohu and the Bohu. And that's the chaos space in the tree, in the Kabbalistic tree of life. To it. These instruments also remind us of pain, death, and bondage. Students of the Gospels will recollect that in the martyrdom of Christ, these three were used, the dagger being replaced by nails. Or I would say the dagger could be a representation of the spear that pierced Christ's sides. You know, in some tradition, do you know what the Roman soldier that pierced Christ's side, do you know what his name was? It was Pantera. You got to respect Walk on Home, boy. Now I got to remind myself to put that on the Spotify playlist. So if you search on Spotify the Abercast, the first thing you'll find is the podcast for sure, but right underneath that is the podcast playlist. So every time I bring up a song or I embarrassingly sing it, like I just did that, I add that song to this Abercast playlist, and it is an eclectic group of music, I should say. But now I got to remember to add respect to it. Okay, so as a footnote, this dagger would be a representation of the spear that pierced Christ's side. This is true of all magical instruments. The hill of Golgotha is a circle, and the cross is the tau, and Christ had a robe, a crown, and a scepter. This thesis should one day be fully worked out. I did a pretty good job of it, I think. I at least cracked the surface of it in the Testament of Solomon episodes. I believe there's 3 of them. We go in. Actually, I think there might be 6 of them. We go into this Golgotha Christ Adam thing in deep, and that has not been archived yet. The Scourge. So he's going to tell us how to make these weapons. The Scourge should be made with a handle of iron. A lash is composed of 9 strands of fine copper wire, in which each are twisted in small pieces of lead. Iron represents severity, copper, love, and lead, austerity. The dagger is made of a steel inlaid with gold, and the hilt is also golden. The chain is made of a soft iron, and it has 333 links. So if I'm assembling this stuff to go my ghost hunting experiment, I'm going to have to go to fucking Home Depot, and I'm going to make the guy count out 333 links of chain. I'll be like, cut it right there. That's what I need. 333. It is now evident why these weapons are grouped around a phial of clear crystal, in which is kept the holy oil. The Scourge keeps the aspiration clean. The dagger expresses the determination to sacrifice all. The chain restricts any wandering. I almost broke into another song there. With the chain restricts all. I don't know. Can you guess what song I was going to sing? It's kind of Pantera-ish. So we may now consider the holy oil itself. Let's see, do we have time to do that? Let me do some calculation. Okay. Chapter 5, the holy oil. The holy oil is the aspiration of the magician. It is that which consecrates him to the performance of the great work, and such is its efficacy that it also consecrates all the furniture of the temple and the instruments thereof. It is also the grace or charism for this apparition is not ambition, is a quality bestowed from above. From the reason of the magician will anoint first the top of his head before proceeding to consecrate the lower centers in their turn. This oil is of a pure golden color. And it is when placed upon the skin, it should burn and thrill throughout the body with an intensity as of fire. It's one of these like lubes that heat up. That's what he's that might be what he's talking about. It is the pure light translated into terms of desire. It is not the will of the magician, the desire of the lower to reach the higher, but it is that spark of the higher in the magician which wishes to unite with the lower. I mean, I could read that a lot of ways. I feel like I've talked. Oh, I'm just going to stop. Unless, therefore, the magician first be anointed with this oil, all his works will be wasted in evil. It's an anal sex joke. That's what I was thinking. That's all that I was thinking. It's not even that it was bad. I don't know why I was afraid to let that loose. You guys have heard me talk about much weirder stuff than that. This oil is compounded of 4 substances. The base of all the oil is the olive. The olive is traditionally the gift of Minerva, the wisdom of God, the Logos. In this area dissolved 3 other oils: oil of myrrh and cinnamon, the oil of cinnamon, and the oil of glanagol. The myrrh is attributed to the Binah. So here he's corresponding these different oils with the different sephiroths of the Kabbalistic tree of life. The great mother, who is both an understanding of the magician and that sorrow and the compassion which results from the contemplation of the universe. The cinnamon represents the Tifereth. The sun, in whom glory and suffering are identical, and the Galangol represents both Kether and Malkuth, which David Bowie sings about. The first and the last, the one and the many, since in this oil they are one. So I really urge you guys, if you're interested in the Sephiroth and this Kabbalistic stuff, to go back and listen to those episodes on the feature topic link under the resources section of the website. We just did a recent installment. I talked to Kabbalist Dr. Jonathan Esterman. We had a good talk. It was a little bit briefer than I'm used to, but I think it was interesting. He has a podcast called Kabbalah Pod. And if you're interested in this Kabbalah stuff, he actually does like how to apply it to your everyday life. It's pretty interesting. It's very interesting. These oils taken together represent, therefore, the whole tree of life. The 10 Sephiroths are blended into the perfect gold. This perfect oil is most penetrating and subtle. Gradually, it will spread itself, a glistening film, over every object in the temple. Am I the only one that's thinking about this? Each of these objects will then flame in the light of the lamp. The oil, like that, was in the widow's curse. It renews and it multiplies itself miraculously. Its perfume fills the whole temple, and it is the soul of which the grosser perfume is the body. The phial, which contains the oil, should be of clear rock crystal. Some magicians have fashioned it in the shape of a female breast, for that it is the true nourishment of all that lives. For this reason also it has been made of the mother of pearl, and stoppered with a ruby. I think he's bearing the lead here, but that's just me. You know what I'm... All right, guys, remember to check out the blog. I'm going to have some kind of explanations about some of the magic circle and the double cube altar that we talked about. It's interesting because I actually have a Thelemite thread. They call it a thread. It's right down the street from where I live, and I've been in their ritual space. So I've actually seen the stuff that I was trying to describe here. So it's kind of where I get my working knowledge of it. Anyhow, I'm going to kind of doodle some of this stuff down, and it'll look cool. I might even put that magic circle on a t-shirt. I'm John. This has been the Abercast. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll let Hill tell you what's up next. Thank you guys. Thanks to the supporters. Thanks to the listeners. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Send an email or visit us on social media to let us know what you think about this topic. And please remember to leave a 5-star rate and review.
Hey, did you learn something? Did you laugh? Supporting me is a way for you to be a part of the Abercast and ensure its growth and sustainability. It also means I can create a normal schedule for shows and bonus shows, as well as the exclusive Fellowcraft episodes. By supporting the show, you are not only a listener, but you are a part of the show. You supporting the show gives me a way to offer fun rewards as a thank you for showing your appreciation and support for our projects. Do you have an idea for a reward that you don't see? Let me know. My supporters are my partners. I currently pay for you to listen to the Abercast. Not only do I pay the hosting bills out of my own pocket, I volunteer my time and talent to each and every episode of the Abercast. The price of books, the time and resources of reading and researching, the massive amounts of gin and tonic needed, the equipment it takes to record the shows, the time and resources it takes to create the bonus material, and the cost to maintain the internet presence. Is it worth your support? I don't know. I am proud of the Abercast, and I feel like I'm improving all the time. In addition to creating the show that you dig and that you are excited about, I also have a full-time commitment and other obligations. So why financial support? All of the supporters help me focus my time on the quality and development of the podcast. And what if you can't afford, $1 or $3 or $10 or whatever a month? Believe me, I get that. There are many degrees of support, but if you can't support the show financially, please consider leaving a 5-star rate and review on your preferred podcast app. And don't forget that you could sign into the mailing list and still unlock a lot of bonus content. Thank you. I cannot put into words how much it means to me that you listen to the show each time I post a new episode. Your feedback, support, and love of the stories that we talk about here is what keeps me going.